On the 21st of September 2023, Payday 3 launched globally on PC, Xbox Series S and X, and PS5 to what has now been referred to as one of the worst launches a video game has had in 2023. Granted, not as bad as Gollum or the day before, but it's up there, which I know for a Payday YouTuber is a very damning statement to make right off the bat, but I don't think I'm fooling anybody in saying that. I think we can all agree on how the launch went. The game came out and for all its purposes was very solid and was a good foundation for a next Payday game, but server issues, a whole lack of quality of life features, and a whole bunch of other issues that we've talked about extensively since, some of which I will be repeating today, have just meant that it didn't really achieve the potential that it should have done for a sequel to Payday 2 that was 10 years in the making. And so today, on Thursday the 21st of December 2023, 3 months after Payday 3 released, I'm here to talk about my thoughts on Payday 3 3 months later. Has the game held up and gotten any better from what we started with? Has it gotten worse? What are the good? What are the bad? What still needs attention? I'm here to discuss it all, as well as some thoughts from you guys. I've put out a poll as well as a Q&A to ascertain some more public opinions, so it's not just limited to one guy ranting in his bedroom. And also, I haven't mentioned it in a little bit, so I thought I'd just give it a shout out. If you're not a member of the Discord server yet, I've had a few people trickling in from my Twitch streams, etc., and hanging out. It is a more relaxed version of a Payday server where people talk about other stuff as well. It's a very, very nice little space that we're building up, and if you want to join and get a good chance to chat to other Payday players, or me, because I'm in it a lot, probably more than I should be, discord.gg/RedarchLive, links in description, feel free to go and join if you like. But I want to start off with my opinions to begin with and talk about my thoughts on Payday 3 3 months later before we talk about audience opinions. And for me personally, I have felt very confident over the last 3 months as I've seen more things get added to the game. As I've said already, Update 2 was the big win, I think, for Payday 3 so far. I personally feel like this game came out too soon. You know, the amount of times games come out these days, you hear people say, oh, it should have had more time in the oven. I don't think it's any more true with any game than it is with Payday 3. Payday 3 had an opportunity to build upon some of the most amazing things Payday 2 did with its quality of life features, ability to customize crew AI, the matchmaking system, the ability to pre-plan your heist with blueprints and pick where assets go. There are a whole heap of features that Payday 2 built over the course of its life that just aren't in Payday 3. And granted, while you can't expect to put 10 years of content in a game when it comes out, because that stuff will build over time, some things cannot be excused. And I'm very glad that Starbreeze have stopped giving the answer of, oh, well, this wasn't in Payday 2 at launch. I think even they've realized that's a stupid excuse, and it doesn't fly with anybody. So I do think that is already something that really has harmed the game at launch. But in saying that, some things are beginning to get better. It's just unfortunate for me that not enough things have. I have got a list of the pros and cons of the game since it came out, and there are far more things in the cons list than the pros. And I want to preface this by saying, it's not a rant, it's not like my 1 month on video, which kind of gets memed a little bit now because I said I was done and then came back 5 days later. I wasn't expecting them to update the game so soon. I'd gotten used to the silence, but beside the point, I want to talk about this in a constructive way, as these are the things you need that are stopping the game from getting good, in my opinion. This is what I've built up over the last few months of making content and talking to the community and all that stuff. So let's get into it. Let's talk about all the things I think need to be added to the game or changed, as well as the good stuff, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So good things out of the way first. Servers for the whole have gotten very, very good. There are moments where they dip, and that's natural with any online game, but there haven't been any big outages since the launch, unless I'm missing something. Feel free to correct me on that. I'm still not a big fan of the always online thing, and I am going to get into that later because I will say it now as I will say it later. We still need an offline mode. I'm not happy that there's been no news on that. This on the table thing is getting very tiring for that. That needs to be a thing in the game, and the fact that it's not, whatever, we'll get to that in a bit. But the servers, at least in the meanwhile, have been somewhat more reliable. There are still issues here and there are still outages, and I'm not a fan of being forced to play a game online where if there is a server outage, you're shoved out of a heist. That's a risk that you're always running, and it doesn't exactly make me feel relaxed when I'm wanting to enjoy a game where I'm just trying to kick back and play a stealth playthrough of a heist, but I'm like, oh, I haven't just got to worry about guards, I've got to worry about the game servers. Not nice, not a fan of that, and especially from a content creator's perspective where I want to record gameplay personally, privately, which I always do in the early access builds. I don't want to be worrying about servers in the meanwhile. That's not fun. But two actual big things that have improved since the game came out are the progression and the update cadence. Let's talk about progression first. This was a big sticking point when the game first came out. Payday 3's entire progression was related to challenges. You only leveled up if you completed a certain number of challenges relating to loud gameplay, normally, bit of stealth, bit of guns, bit of whatever. And while I still think the challenge system in and of itself was a good idea, and I still liked what they did with it, it shouldn't have been the only way to progress in Payday 3, and I am glad they did amend that, and now you do just gain infamy points for completing heists. I do wonder still if you could get a few more for completing heists, and I still stand by the statement that you should be able to reward infamy points based on how many bags you secure, rather than not getting any extra points if you secure less than the max bags and just getting a whole heap if you do. There needs to be more progressive infamy point rewards based on how much you lose. But overall, progression is much, much better. I haven't got to max level. I'm not even quite at level 100 yet. It's why I've not done build videos. But at least now just playing heists allows me to level up. That's a big win. But I also want to stress the update cadence, because after going for a month without any communication, any real news on an update, we then have had 3 unique updates for Payday 3 in each of the months following. We had one in October, one in November, one in December. Actually, no, one of them was at the start of November. It wasn't even in October, was it? Whatever, I've lost track. Point is, we got 3 updates. The first one, very much a bid and gone thing of just fixing bugs and quality of life features, whatever. Update 2, as I've said, was the big improvement and adding cook-off. Regardless of your opinions on whether you think bringing classic heists back so soon was a good or bad idea, Cook-Off is one of the most enjoyable heists in Payday 3, in my opinion. It was modernized and just made much more fun to play, I feel like, than Payday 2. Cooking meth isn't a hassle anymore. The combat works better in that map. I know there's debates over the difficulty and some of the changes that have been related to that. Some people are not happy that Overkill is made harder, but I think it's probably for the best. As someone who doesn't play much Overkill, in fairness, I've seen fellow content creators like Noli saying that Overkill, while it's challenging, is not the most challenging it could be, so I think it's good that they're trying to make Overkill as tough as it was intended, but that combat and that difficulty really does feel stronger in Cook-Off in particular, and that's why that heist stands out to me. I don't think, for all the moaning people did about there being a bag limit in Cook-Off, I don't think many people actually get to it because the combat is that challenging. And for someone who's playing Baldur's Gate 3 on Explorer difficulty, you can tell I'm not the kind of person who enjoys challenging combat. I like just getting sucked up into a game and enjoying myself. Note to self, it took you less than 5 minutes in the video to mention Baldur's Gate 3. You have a problem. But all in all, I do appreciate the update cadence has gotten so good that we had 2 updates 2 weeks apart. Really like that. Hope they keep this monthly update cadence going on, if not more often, because these kind of games live and die based on how frequently they get content, and I want them to maintain that in 2024. But now I want to get into the negatives, the things that I think the game could do with improving. And as I've said, this is not a rant kind of thing. It's more just, these are the things that are still blaring issues that if you fix, in my opinion, will make Payday 3 a much more solid game. So let's run them through. They're not really any particular order. These are just things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks that I wanted to share in this video. And it's not an exhaustive list. If there's anything I miss out, please do include it in the comments below, because I will probably have forgotten some things. This is just the stuff that comes to mind to begin with. But first off, Nebula. I know I am one of the few people that still have an issue. I think most people's Nebula systems are working very well now, but it has been 3 months and I still cannot invite friends cross-platform. If you saw my live stream a couple of weeks ago where I invited Ian Russell, the voice of Locke, to play Payday 3 with me, I had to have a friend there to invite him for me. I had to have someone else in my lobby to invite him because I couldn't do it. I struggled to even add people cross-platform. That's gotten a little bit better, but sending cross-platform invites is a nightmare. I expected playing on Xbox, I'd be able to play with the Stabilised partners who are almost all on PC, or any friends on cross-platform with no challenge, and still to this day, I still can't do it. I don't want to fire it up on my PC just so I can play with a certain amount of people. I want to play it on the console that I like. And Nebula still being bugged. I'm still chasing up with Starbreeze and still trying to get it fixed behind the scenes, because I know I'm not the only one. I've had people in my stream saying they're struggling with cross-platform invites as well. That needs to be fixed. I mean, it's just a teething issue with them trying cross-platform and launching in such a big way for a studio that's never done this before, but it needs fixing. It would really improve my enjoyment of the game. But something that is not just limited to me is an Unready button. Now, I have said this before, I am not a game dev. I don't know the inner workings of how things are developed within a game. But 3 months into a game's launch and there's no information on where we're up to with an Unready button? Surely that can't be the hardest thing in the world to add. I mean, if it is, fine, I will hold my hands up and apologise. As I said, I don't know how game development works. But as far as I'm concerned, that is something that should be a very high priority. The fact that you join a lobby and you can't even unready. Once you ready up, you can't change your favors, you can't change your guns. That is silly. It was there from day 1 in Payday 2, unless I'm mistaken, so why is it not there in Payday 3? I also really, as I've said earlier, don't like that the loot values are hidden. I think one of the biggest serotonin boosts in a heisting game is being constantly informed of the amount of money you're securing. I've said this several times. I love in GTA 5 how they had the take system in the corner. The more money or loot you secured, the bigger the take counter got in the corner, and it got really exciting because you're thinking, look, let's break 1 million, let's break 2 million, let's get as much money as we can. In Payday 2, I don't think the bag secure was quite as good as the take thing. The take thing's nice and simple. It's like the kind of the king for me. But seeing it pop up on screen, bag secured, here's the value. That's a good, bam, serotonin boost. Little quick bit of, oh great, I've got some money. And if you ever needed to, you could press tab, bring up the menu and see the overall money you'd made so far. That's not there, nor is bag values in Payday 3. Now, I have to preface, they have made it clear, game director now, I should say, Mio, who's just been promoted to game director going into 2024, has said on record that it's because the value of loot will change based on whether you secure it in stealth, with the modifiers present, like just playing a heist doesn't guarantee the value depending on the circumstances you secure it. It's more in-depth than that. But even then, I think you should still show the numbers and put a label next to it saying you secured this in stealth, so you get a bonus. Put in brackets, extra value because secured in stealth, extra value because this, less value because it's in loud, less value because you're in the heist for X amount of time, whatever it may be. Show us still. Make it clear what the differences are, but tell us the money secure, because that would be really good. I do think it ties into the bags not really having an exact value and not contributing to an overall payday, and that's a wider issue that needs fixing, but just not having that little boost, that little kick when you're playing, it does harm the gameplay for me a little bit, so I want to see that improved for sure. On top of that, kind of ties into the Unready button. There's still not being a vote to kick feature or any kind of removal feature even for the host of the lobby, which I know the host doesn't really apply in the same sense anymore because it's a server, but just some kind of removal function. It's just downright bad. The problem with not having a system like that is that you open up the lobby for people to troll, to not leave the heist when they want to be the one to carry on doing the objective when no one else wants to, get everyone killed, and fail the heist. Or it could be someone walking in, trying to blow up the meth lab, or somehow still not knowing that waiting for the meth to go blue is something that you need to do. Like, just grabbing the meth instantly gives you less money. Jokes aside, there are serious people who join who will either terrorize your lobby, make it last longer than you want, and are not fun to play with. It was the same problem with Payday 2. So we need a system to combat that. A couple of smaller issues I also want to mention before we get to the audience things, and a couple of big things from me. I'm just not the biggest fan of how the favors system works. In my opinion, the medic bag, armor bag, and ammo bags are all pointless favors. They don't really do anything. There's been some discussions I've seen people saying, oh, the zipline favor's the best one. It is, factually. It's not me saying make the zipline bag harder to get to because it's easier. I'm saying buff the other three favors. Right now, the zipline bag is good in most heists. It's pointless really in No Rest for the Wicked, and I think there's another heist where it has no use. It might be Dirty Ice. The zipline bag's performing as it should. It's a favor that makes the game more enjoyable. But for me, whenever I load into a heist and I haven't got a heist-specific favor I want to use, I'm always like, zipline. I never think, ooh, let's bring some armor. I only bring that if someone else has brought the zipline. It's a backup. And I think the way to improve that would be to allow more charges in the bags. I think that will really make a difference, having 4 charges in the favors. Or even better, the favor you pick having the same upgrades as your skills. If you would bring in an armor bag with 6 charges, the one you pick as a favor also comes in with 6 charges. That would give you more motivation to get those particular skills because you're bringing in a more powerful armor bag on top of the one you're carrying. That could be really good. But just buffing those other favors I think will be really good. And on top of that, the heist-specific favors could do with like the ability to either purchase them, maybe with C-stacks, that would be a really good idea, I think. But just because it's a little bit touch and go as to how to get hold of them, don't make it super easy to obtain them. Like I said, I wouldn't change the value of the zipline bag. I think that's fine as it is, or any of the other favors. They're low price, you buy a bunch of them. I just think they need to be more balanced. But I think the heist-specific favors, they're meant to be more reliable aids, I would say, for each specific heist, so make them a bit harder to obtain. Make it like 5 C-stacks to buy one of those favors if you want one for a certain run, or 3 C-stacks, whatever you want to cost for it. But something like that I think will be really, really good. But aside from that, I've got a small thing that ties into a big thing and then a big thing at the end. So let's talk about DLC. I made no bones in my Update 3 video about how disgusted I am with the price tag, and I still am. There have been some people who've been trying to comment on Twitter saying, oh, this is the standard for games now. You buy battle passes for £10. There's been some people with some very questionable takes since then, and if you think the DLC is priced fairly, more power to you. I ain't got no problem with that, even though I vehemently disagree. For me, if you are paying for a DLC bundle that is nearly half the price of the game you bought into, you're doing something wrong. It's drastically wrong. Payday 3 launched at $40, and each heist, therefore, if you want to work it out this way, is $5 a piece. The base first DLC heist costing $10, aside from any other DLC, is the most ridiculous, egregious spit in the face I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, if I didn't own the Gold Edition, I don't think I'd have bought the DLC. I really, really don't. If I wasn't a content creator, and I'd looked at that from the outside, I'd have gone, do you know what? I'm good, because I don't recommend the DLC. I still don't. For that price, it ain't worth it. I really don't think so. Even for the guns, which are really good, if you want to buy the weapon pack on its own, fine, maybe. But the bundle, I still don't recommend. And I really am disappointed that despite a lot of people complaining about the prices, there's not really been any acknowledgement from Starbreeze that I've seen. I'm going to be intrigued to see if they change their pricing model, because right now, it's not good. To me, it seems like a very clear motivator of, let's make the DLC individually quite expensive so people are then inclined to buy silver and gold because it costs them a bit less and it makes us more money, which I really don't like. Incredibly manipulative from my perspective. That's how it looks anyway, so please feel free to justify it and explain it in a different way if you want, but that's how it looks to me. The most ironic thing of all that, though, is that you still can't even upgrade to silver or gold on 2 of the 3 platforms. So if that was your grand plan, you fumbled that anyway. So reduce the DLC prices, let us upgrade if we want to, let people have the choice, but for goodness sake, don't charge that much for any more DLC. That's absolutely ridiculous. While I would have understood a slight price increase of $1 more or something, nearly doubling the value of a heist, no, absolutely not. And on top of that, the Tailor Pack, well, has good stuff. There's no color options. You can't customize the masks. it's lacking compared to Payday 2. It's seriously lacking and it needs some work. But finally, my last thing that I want to say that is a big issue with the game, and I'm going to keep saying it until I go blue in the face, is that this game still does not have an offline mode or even pause functionality. Once again, this is something the game needs to have added. I remember when Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War launched and you couldn't pause zombies, and then they added the feature in about, I think, a month into the game's life cycle, and it made a huge difference to me playing zombies solo. Playing solo and not being able to pause is such a missed opportunity. In fact, I will literally reference a specific time. I was recording my stealth footage for Syntax Error, and in the middle of trying to do the stealth heist, I was trying to dodge about 3 different guards, and my doorbell rang with a package. And I thought, what am I supposed to do? I can't pause the game, but I've got to go and get the packet. And then you start stressing, thinking, I can't pause the game. I can't leave my device because something could go wrong. That's not what you want in a game. It's that extra stress that takes away from the idea of a video game being an escape, and I'm not a fan. But overall, you just need an offline mode. I mean, I don't have any other way to explain this that I haven't already said, but what if the servers go down? What if you play in an area that hasn't got good internet? What if you just want to play on your own and don't want to be disturbed? I mean, private lobbies have not been the most reliable thing, as we've seen on record. I mean, if my Nebula was functioning more than it currently is, I'd probably have people joining my game, even when it was private. I don't trust the way the lobbies work. But the fact that there's still nothing going on there is a huge misstep. And I honestly think you would improve the community sentiment towards the game if you actually do what everyone's asking you to do and adding an offline mode. That's the most ranty I'm going to get in this video, because I said I don't want to be a ranter in this. But that is really important, because I keep stressing it. And occasionally I'll put a video out where I don't mention it, and then I think, I really need to mention it because I need to make it clear I am still not happy. It still needs to be added, so add it. But there you go, that's my thoughts overall on Payday 3 3 months later. I'm already 20 minutes into recording. I know I can shave some stuff out, but let's get into the audience input so I can wrap this video up. So here, most interesting, let's start off with the poll. I put this out 2 weeks ago, so bear in mind this is before Syntax Error. I'm not sure if DLC pricing or the DLC overall will have changed this one way or the other, but out of 3.6 thousand votes, I asked how people are feeling about Payday 3. Only 17% of people are loving it. 51% are liking it more than they were, which, to be fair, doesn't say much. You could have been hating it and like it a little bit more and still not like it much. 21% say they're still on the fence, 7% say they don't like it, and 3% refunded the game. So not many refunds, which I'm surprised about, because I saw a lot of people saying it at launch, so hopefully it gives them more ammo to actually improve the game in the important ways. They are trying, don't get me wrong, but more things need to be done. But I think it's very interesting that there are a lot of people on the fence and not many people loving it. I think it's a very interesting statistic to pull from. But let's look at some audience input. I haven't read through this at all, so I'm going to pick out some comments, whatever's at the top maybe, and just have a little look through. But I asked you to tell me how you felt about the game, so let's see what people have said. So the top comment is from Coulter, is it Coultergeist, I'm guessing? The gameplay feels extremely grounded, which is great. It's just a shame how many quality of life features are missing, especially when we had them in Payday 2. Preaching to the choir. But yeah, I feel like I should have said that. I think it's important to reinforce that Payday 3's core gameplay loop is still really fun. It's a very enjoyable core gameplay loop. The heists are fun, but there's just not enough of them, and there's not enough quality of life features in there to make the game stand out as perfect. I said Update 2 made the game fun again. I do agree with that. It didn't make the game great. Game King 0201 has said, I'm glad that the game is getting better because every game deserves a chance to redeem itself. My hope is that the devs will be more consistent with updates and be more in talk with the community. I liked the first DLC, and it gives me hope for the future that is to come for the game. Okay, interesting. I appreciate that. So, saying that the game deserves a chance to redeem itself, I mean, that just hurts my soul on an overall level, because I'm really, really sick of games launching in, like, kind of broken states, not having the features they need, and then getting them over time, and then it being kind of a comeback story. That shouldn't be a thing in games, and it's something I probably maybe would do on my second channel, just debate that a little bit, but Payday 3 is a clear example of that. I mean, live service games are supposed to get better as they go on, that is true, but when you're superseded by having to fix things that shouldn't have needed fixing, that should have been in the game at launch, it taints my views sometimes. Appreciate that you like the first DLC. All in all, I think it's a solid DLC. It's just the pricing that means I can't recommend it. Adam Bomb saying, I played all the heists to death and the core gameplay is enjoyable. I particularly like being able to do heists unmasked, including Syntax Error, so I hope more future heists can be done unmasked too. Agreed. I really like the unmasked gameplay. Having said that, the number of heists is paltry and the DLC prices seem a little much, but I've definitely had fun playing. Yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that. I still don't think there's enough heists. I think getting the classic heists and Syntax Error, giving us 11 now, gives you a bit more to do, but I still think you could do with having more in the game. There's still less than Payday 2 launched with, which regardless of length, I think is still a downside for this game. But having fun, I agree. You know, the DLC prices are expensive, but the game is overall quite fun. Echo Crow, great game. Wish I had more content at launch. Very true. Harley MM saying they absolutely love it and are excited for the future. They have the gold edition, so they don't have to pay for the upcoming DLCs. Exactly my point. I think when you own the gold edition, you're not going to feel as uncomfortable about the pricing because you did get a better deal on the gold edition. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? Let's finish with I am_, who said, I wish I wanted to play Payday 3 so badly, but there's just nothing that's keeping me coming back time and time again like the previous games. Oh, okay. Feels like I'm having to purposely try to seek out some sort of fun in the progression instead of the simple, consistent, and fast-paced progression of Paydays 1 and 2. I also feel like the attrition gameplay encourages less fun strategies and more camping, and I think a system that rewards you with armor or health for being aggressive, similar to how Doom does it, would really benefit the way the game feels to play. But hey, at least the gunplay and map design is awesome. Wow, okay, really interesting comment here. So, I will say, yeah, I don't know if there's enough to keep me coming back time and time again. Update 2 did make me start playing the game casually again, but I've also fallen off with it again. As I mentioned earlier, that may just be because of Baldur's Gate 3, but that's beside the point. I do think that they've improved the game enough to make it more casually fun again, definitely. The attrition gameplay, I actually kind of like it a little bit more, although I do agree it probably does encourage more camping and there's less varied playstyles, but I think that might come down to a sense that people are not as willing to experiment yet in this game. I don't feel like people are messing around with builds as much as they could do. I think that's because there are more kind of, you know, you just want to get through the combat. You don't really want to mix up the gameplay too much yet, but I think adding the hacker equivalent skill line that's called, what was it called, Scrambler, is going to begin to start leading things in a way where you can vary playstyles. So I'm keen to see that change. But also saying that you want a system to reward you with armor health being aggressive, I would like that very much. I was a very big grinder enjoyer of Payday 2, getting health for dealing damage. I'd love to see a mechanic like that in Payday 3. We'll see if they do it, though, because they want to try and do something different with 3, so we'll see where we go there. But I agree, gunplay and map design, both very, very good. Well, if you want to see some more comments from the audience, I scroll down a little bit and people mention the price of the DLC instantly. Yikes. But if you do want to see more comments, please do scroll down and have a look through them on this thread. You'll see it on my community tab, so feel free to go and take a gander on my community tab if you want to have a peek at some of the things going on in there. I'll post asking for video ideas, all sorts of stuff like that. But ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on Payday 3, 3 months on. Like I said, it has improved, but there's still a lot of work to be done, which is natural. I just wonder how this game would have looked if it had released 6 months, a year later than it actually did. I will always wonder that. But either way, it's still a strong start in terms of the gunplay and the core mechanics, but it needs a lot more to make it a fantastic game. And I think, sadly, it's going to be a uphill battle in 2024 getting the public opinion back on board. The Payday players, I think, are still going to be loyal to this game to an extent. But I mean, if you watch GameRanks' content, seeing Payday 3 being the #1 bad game launch of 2023, it's quite clear public sentiment is not very strong for Payday 3 right now, and that needs to change, so I'm really hoping they manage to pull it round next year. I really am. But either way, thank you all very much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it, and click that subscribe button if you're new to stay in touch with all future Payday 3 content. I might be back later this month or end of the year with something to celebrate the end of the year for Payday 3, but if I'm not, then have a very good Christmas, have a lovely new year, and I'll see you all in 2024 for more Payday content. You can always check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/RedArcherLive, for more content, live streams for Payday and anything in between, as well as YouTube for the Payday live streams. Follow me on Twitter at RedArcherLive, Instagram, all that stuff. You can see the link tree in my description at all times, so you can go and support me wherever you like. And the Discord server as well is the best place to get in contact with me if you want to ask me questions or just say hi to me, because I'm in there a lot more than I should be, probably terminally online level. Discord.gg/RedArcherLive. Feel free to join and come say hi. But apart from that, thank you all for watching. I will see you all very soon with a brand new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next one.